The New York Times has filed a significant lawsuit against the Department of Defense for their authoritarian tactics, the measures they implemented to restrict free press and to restrict the flow of information to the American public about what the Pentagon was or wasn't doing. The New York Times has sued the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and Sean Purnell in their official capacities. The New York Times, of course, no stranger to defending freedom of the press. Two Supreme Court landmark cases are a result of their lawsuits. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's get into this. Now, of course, we saw the interplay about the new policies that are at issue in this lawsuit and the effect of them with the most recent Pentagon briefing, where all of the traditional news outlets that are credible, experienced were gone, and instead were replaced with the Matt Gaetz, Laura Loomers, and far-right or MAGA reporters. And there was a huge difference into what kind of information the American public received, especially at this critical time where Trump puts out a post saying Venezuelan heirs are going to be closed. The American public certainly wants this kind of information. Now, the new policy that was implemented and that was at issue basically restricted the reporters from getting any unauthorized information from members of the Department of Defense and for receiving any tips. Basically, the only information that the reporters could report on was authorized information. Now, as you can imagine, that severely restricts what the reporters could report on. One easy example, of course, is the most recent leak about Hegseth and having the second kill order, which was a leak. This was not authorized. Time and time again, administration after administration, reporters have always used anonymous sources, confidential sources in order to keep the government accountable. The press is often called the fourth branch of government. I learned in journalism school how important that is. The fact is reporters need to know unauthorized information in order to check the balance of powers. That was explicitly what the Department of Defense was trying to change with this acknowledgement. According to the filing of the 56 press outlets, only one of them agreed to sign this new policy. If they didn't sign the new policy, they didn't receive a press badge. And as a result, the press room looked completely different. But it seemed like one person was enjoying this new, let's say, spread of MAGA reporters. It wasn't the American people who didn't receive any more information, but it seemed to be the press secretary herself. Take a listen.
Are there plans to host or hold more of these regular press briefings? And if so, how frequently?
Absolutely. We'd love to. It'd be great to get everybody in here. Great question. So I don't have anything to announce at this time. Thank you for the question. That's why the work you all do is so important. This is a big building, and we want to make sure that we have the absolute best people working at it to protect Americans every single day.
The fact is, these briefings aren't supposed to be enjoyable for the spokesperson. This is the time to hold them to account. All millions of us cannot fit into this press room and ask the questions we so seriously care about. The press is supposed to represent us in a way to ask those questions, to get the information. They usually have even more information than we do and can ask the right follow-up questions. It is meant to be uncomfortable to the government and to the spokespeople. This is about us getting the information, not them feeling so good. So let's talk about this new Venezuela thing and the effect of this new policy. It's not that hard to figure out based on this recent briefing. Matt Gaetz, new reporter, no experience or qualified reporter in any way, became an own anchor because of his fame and notoriety as a Republican. I'm sure he has not read the professional ethics and responsibilities that govern a reporter's job, but his question, this softball question, is about Venezuela. Let's take a listen.
Kingsley, if Nicolas Maduro leaves Venezuela today, what role will the Department of War have in a post-Maduro Venezuela? And describe the process the administration will use to determine whether or not current members of the Venezuelan military or Venezuelan government have a role in a post-Maduro Venezuela.
Thanks for the question. So the department has a contingency plan for everything. We are a planning organization. If anything were to happen around the world, we have a response planned and ready. So we stand at the president's beck and call, our commander-in-chief, to do what is needed if called upon. And that will be what this department continues to focus on and continues to prepare for in regards to our ongoing operations in the Southcom region. Again, our focus is taking out narco-terrorists and rooting out that threat that is poisoning the American people. Every single boat that we strike saves 25,000 American lives. That is a crucial mission to protecting the homeland, and we're proud to be a part of it.
I'm a blanket person. The first thing I do when I sit on the couch is pull out a blanket. And Lola blankets have become my favorite blanket by far. It's soft, luxurious, but also that looks great, despite the fact I've had to wash it many times with my dog and cat and kids. Usually, blankets don't look or feel very good after many washes, but not Lola blankets. It's not only my favorite, though, it's my family's favorite, which sometimes causes an issue. I have a size large. The extra large is massive. It's considered the largest blanket in the world. Lola's blankets are the world's #1 blanket, crafted with ultra soft luxury vegan faux fur and a signature 4-way stretch that sets it apart. It's machine washable, double hem for durability, and stays flawless. No pilling, no shedding, even after repeated washes. It has 10,000 5-star reviews, and a personal favorite of mine is the fact that they have a program called Blankets for the Brave, where they give blankets to people living with cancer, and they donate a portion of their proceeds to cancer research. That is really important to me, and it makes me feel even better about enjoying their blankets. And for a limited time, our listeners are getting a huge 35% off their entire order at lolablankets.com by using code MISTRIAL at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code MISTRIAL for 35% off. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Wrap yourself in luxury with Lola Blankets. Thank goodness for the New York Times lawsuit, because if we have to depend on Matt Gaetz in order to get the kind of information we need about whether or not we're going to war with Venezuela, we're in a lot of trouble. Matt Gaetz just jumps to a post-Maduro world as if it is going to be that easy. And then there is Wade, another quote reporter in that press briefing, and he asks, it seems like he's going to ask maybe a good question about finally holding somebody to account for these cartel strikes. But it's not somebody in the administration. Take a listen.
So you were speaking earlier about the Washington Post report concerning the Secretary of War and Admiral Bradley. And my question is, does the Department of War plan on pursuing any sort of legal action against the Washington Post?
Stunning. That kind of question is perfect evidence for this lawsuit. He was so close. The fact is, somebody is going to be held accountable for that transpired on those strikes, but it's not going to be the Washington Post. Then you have James O'Keefe, who founded Project Veritas, asking his burning question of whether or not Trump and Hegseth are going to root out people in the departments that are part of the, quote, resistance. Take a listen.
We know there are other people like this that work here. My question is, what steps is the Department of War taking to identify and address personnel who are in the self-described resistance movement?
Thank you for the question. That's why the work you all do is so important.
No wonder the press secretary was enjoying the briefing that much. The fact is, this lawsuit is strong because they are suing, saying this is a violation of their First Amendment rights and their Fifth Amendment rights. Fifth Amendment, because it is a violation of their due process right. There was no procedures in place. And the First Amendment, on so many different grounds, is a non-public forum. They're clearly trying to censor how they get information, what they say. The fact is that it is a routine part of journalism to get unauthorized information and to get tip lines. And so for them to restrict it in that way is a violation of their First Amendment right. This lawsuit being filed by Ted Boutrous of Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, my former law firm, they were also the ones who sued when CNN was deprived their badge from the White House. If you remember, the lower court ruled in favor of CNN, and then the White House reversed the policy and gave everybody their badges back. Perhaps this will happen here as well. Certainly the New York Times having a very strong case here. And the New York Times, again, no stranger to defending freedom of the press, freedom of the speech. Times versus Sullivan, one of the landmark First Amendment cases, saying that it's not defamatory to speak about somebody from the government unless you have actual malice, actual knowledge, what you're saying is a lie. And then the Pentagon Papers, again, being able to print information about the government, the Supreme Court siding with their printing the Pentagon Papers, saying that the press cannot print something only if it is very clearly an immediate threat to national security. The New York Times here again being willing to stand up to Trump, as we've seen months of law firms capitulating, months of other media companies capitulating, seeing cracks, seeing the power of Trump and MAGA be diluted as people leave, such as Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then this lawsuit standing up for the Pentagon Press, which in this very critical moment, this very rapidly changing news story about what is happening with these alleged cartel strikes in Venezuela, with this war that Trump seems to be starting over oil in Venezuela, but he says that it's about cartels. Rapidly moving, we need actual journalism. We need information that the government doesn't want us to have, but it is important for us to have. My name is Dina Doll. If you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to do that. Follow the Mistrial Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't checked out our sponsors for Mistrial, be sure to do that in the link below. So grateful for our sponsors because they never censor what I have to say, which is so important in this moment.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.